Hi, Chris. This is Megan.
Hey, Megan.
We are already technology-wise.
All right, let's see here. I just got a message on my phone. Okay, let's see here. It says, I got a text. I'm an attendee. Could you promote me or ask Megan to?
I will do that right now.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah. Oh, it must have been Amber.
Yep, it was me. Thanks. I got in some weird way.
All righty. Right, well, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to call this December 9th, 2021 regular meeting of the Energy and Climate Team to order. Up on the screen here, if you're watching, is how to join our meeting, how to view it. And also through that system, you can also do a hand raise and make comments during either the public comment on items not listed or during our other portions of our agenda. So that's all out there for anybody else who wants to join on. All right. Next up is a roll call. Megan, if you could, please.
Sure, Chris.
Here.
Jeremy.
He'll be here in about 10 or 15 minutes, he said, maybe 20.
Great. Trevor.
Here.
Brian. Here yet? Scott.
Here.
Jonathan.
Here.
David. Virgil. Ellis. Vive.
Here.
And Amber Cheryl, I see, is here. Great, thank you.
All right, I think we have a quorum. We have 5, or do we?
4 voting members.
Right, 4 voting members. I was counted Amber in there. All right, so for the moment, we can't take any formal action, but we can still get started on some of this stuff. Next up is the approval of the minutes. As you recall from last meeting, we talked about the schedule with the youth team members, which we're going to talk about again today. We talked about the utility fee.
Brian just joined, so we have a quorum.
All righty. We talked about the greenhouse, the city's, the community greenhouse gas emissions inventory, and we passed a resolution to forward to council and others on that. We talked about the new clean energy specialist position, and we're going to talk about that briefly again today. Talked about the youth team member capstone project, which I need to get moving on, and of course the climate lens, and there's a lot of discussion about that, and the current Center for Recreation and Creativity, which we'll talk about again today. Jonathan brought up the marijuana regulations, and we'll talk about that today. And we talked a little bit about the marijuana regulations as well. So with that, does anybody have any questions or comments or changes to those minutes?
Move to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
Sounds good. Seeing no objection, we'll just approve them without a vote. We'll keep moving forward. Thanks, everybody. Next up is announcements and updates. I'll go ahead and get started. I got a few, and if you guys have any, please join in. First up, we are going to be posting the city-county position, the one that Michael Dorhurst occupied, hopefully before too long. And we're also going to be posting the alternate position, the one that Dave Morris is in, before too long, likely. And so there'll be 2 positions. So if you have anybody you know who works for the city and county or just wishes to be a member, please encourage them to do so. We'll send out that link once Megan makes it live. Let's see here. For next meeting, I've been reading a bunch about the federal building. It's still moving forward. It sounds to me like the next, the city may take formal occupancy of the building in September of next year. And so, and they've already got some budgets. They're talking about $40 million for the restoration, including all the historic preservation. And so that's moving forward. And we wanted to, like we have in a bunch of these other things, jump in there in terms of talking about how we can make this an energy efficiency, renewable energy demonstration project. So with that, I was thinking about asking John Adams, he's actually the brownfields coordinator, but he's the one who's leading with the city, the effort for the federal building, and having him come to the next meeting. I think that would probably be a good idea. One of the things for after the first of the year is we have 2 field trips on our, looks like Ellis joined us. 2 field trips coming forward, so we need to figure out some dates and times for those. Wastewater treatment plant, which will probably take at least several hours, in the landfill, which probably won't take quite as long. So we need to be thinking about good times to make those work, whether we want to do it during the regular meeting or do it separately. We'll have to figure that out. One thing we talked about last time was the capacity building funding that was received through the budget. And there's a position that's currently posted for that capacity building person. And there was a bunch of discussion afterwards between Scott and Jeremy and myself and others about how to keep the funding for capacity building in-house within the city and try to use that. So that discussion's going on. Please, anyone wants to jump in and send an email to Lee or myself or whatever. I just wanted to mention that discussion was ongoing as well.
Chris, I just want to give a quick update on that. We did close the position for now with the holidays coming up. We didn't quite get the application pool that we would need to move forward. And so we're pausing it and opening it again in the new year. And are really going to need some help in passing it along far and wide and hope that we get a larger applicant pool.
And notice they posted it with Climate Smart Missoula, but I don't know where else it went. Yeah. All right. So maybe, we can think about where else it can go through some of the statewide organizations that do conservation efforts. Like the comes to mind is the Environmental Coordination Organization. Forgot their name. But anyways, I think there's some other places we can send it out. I did also want to ask you, Lee, one of the next things was community emissions inventory. What are your next steps? Did you get it finalized and have you submitted it to anyone yet?
Thank you so much to everybody who provided comments and feedback on it. I'm still kind of incorporating some of those comments, and so it's not quite finalized yet. I did present a broad overview to our leadership team here at the city, just to kind of give some of our department heads an idea of what it looks like. And then the next step will be to finalize it and then present to probably the Parks and Conservation Committee of City Council. And we're going to wait until probably the end of January for that, just because we have new city council members coming on. letting them get situated and then present to them as kind of my first introduction in front of the new city council members.
Are you planning on putting it on Engage Missoula, or how do you anticipate getting it out to the broader community?
We generally post it on our the city website. So we have a climate action page on the city's website, which we are in the process of updating to make it more relevant and with kind of some modern information, as it's really dated right now. But it'll be posted there for anyone to refer to.
Yeah, and actually brings up a point. Our team's webpage is also pretty antiquated. So anybody on the team who is somewhat knowledgeable about design for web pages, who wishes to suggest some updates, that wouldn't be a bad thing. But we probably need to put that on our list to work on at some point. All right. Anybody else have any other announcements or updates? Let's see, hands up. All right, so moving on. So we've got 2 action items today.
Chris, can you call for public comment first, please?
Oh yeah, sorry. It's at the end of my page. All right. Up now is, all right, so let's see, I just got a note from Virgil too. Let me check that out. While we're checking Virgil's note, we're open for public comment for any on items not listed on the agenda. You can go through our live YouTube channel or by calling in and raising your hand on the YouTube or Zoom process, or I think there is a number you press on the phone.
Doesn't look like there's any public in attendance. Thanks, Chris.
Okay. Okay, Virgil and Deal, thanks for coming along. Well, if anything, I may move up an item if you have to leave, Virgil, about changing the time. So let's do our 2 action items and then we'll talk about the meeting times. First one up is the resolution of support for the use of energy efficiency and renewable energy in the proposed Current Center for Recreation and Creativity. So I'm assuming everyone's had a chance to look at that. So we, use our usual language, our carbon neutrality, 100% clean electricity thing, the usual language about, the city is engaged in all this stuff. And then when we get down to the meat of it, it is the plan of the city through the Parks and Recreation Department to design and build a current center for recreation and creativity. And whereas it is the vision of the center to create a, quote, flexible multi-use space to support healthy lifestyles in an equitable, multi-generational and inclusive atmosphere. And whereas a guiding principle states that we believe in a community center that respects the planet and models climate change awareness and sustainability. So therefore, be resolved that the Missoula Energy and Climate Team hereby supports the use of energy efficiency and renewable energy approaches to the greatest extent possible in the design and construction of the current Center for Recreation and Creativity, and further that the energy efficiency and renewable energy approaches become part of the energy conservation education and demonstration effort. Become part of I need to add an A there. All right, so let's open up for discussion.
I've got my hand up.
Oh, go Scott.
Yeah, a couple of quick questions, maybe a little more detail as it relates to the resolution in terms of the energy savings. And then a question for Amber. Amber, is it the intent that this will go out to a bond to fund the center?
I'm sorry, I'm having some audio problems. Could you say that again?
Sure. Unmute. I need to unmute myself, Amber. One question I think was for Leah, which is, tell us a little bit more about the energy savings plan. And then the question for you was, is this going to be another bond?
Do you want to go first, Leah, or do you want me to go first?
I'll let you go ahead and go first.
I don't think that we know yet is my answer.
So the funding mechanism
Okay,
is
that's
is
a good
unknown.
brief answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know, right?
Can you, Chris, can you just remind me of the topic that we're on? I'm sorry, I got lost
No,
in our agenda.
That's all right. So we were talking about the current Center for Recreation and Creativity. And Scott was asking about an energy plan or something related to that, if it existed already. Was that your question, Scott?
Yes. Or just more detail if the plan isn't there, what the general intent is.
Yeah, I think at this point, from what I understand, it's very much still in the conceptual stage, and that there will be opportunity for feedback, lots of opportunity for feedback, both public, energy and climate team, my position. If you look at the designs, you can see that there is a lot of energy efficiency built into the current plan. So a lot of passive energy, a lot of, I think there was solar on the rooftop. I know that Donna Gockler, who's leading this project, is incredibly committed to environmental sustainability and will welcome any sort of feedback at all stages in the process. But there isn't a specific energy plan aside from that, in consideration of the project, that we need to consider energy savings and carbon neutrality and all of the goals that we have as a city.
And I would add to that, thanks, Lee, I would add to that, I mean, we're just, I guess, we're just at a very conceptual point right now. So I don't think we know anything about funding. And I think we're trying to see if it as well. So
All right, you broke up a little there, Amber.
I'm going to turn off my video for a second.
All right.
Okay, sometimes it's a little better if I keep my video off, so I'll do that while I'm speaking at least. I'm not sure what part you heard and didn't hear, but it's very conceptual at this point is why I'm having brief answers about funding, and it's a pretty big price tag. So I would guess there would be certainly some level of bond, but I don't think that, I think we're pretty far away from being able to solidly talk about the funding and what the community supports. And I would agree with Lee that I think Donna's, is committed to our city goals. And so I think there'll be lots of time to comment and discuss this project. I just don't think we're quite to the point that we can say how it would be funded or anything like that yet.
Thanks for that, Scott.
Yeah, thanks for those answers. I'm not trying to be negative about the proposal. What I think is most interesting to me as a member of this particular team is the idea that it could be a center for energy education. I know that one of the reports that the city has sort of embraced is the one that says we're past mitigation and now we need to focus on adaptation. But for individual homeowners, people are still interested in mitigation, as in what are they doing here that I could do in my own home that would mitigate carbon footprint, and what would allow me to lower my energy bill. So the part that's really interesting, I mean, this is a cool center, is let's try to figure out along the way how it can be used for educating the larger public about things they could actually do in their own homes. Now I'll shut up.
I like that idea. I mean, I put at the end of the resolution something about education, and we could beef this up, that the energy and efficiency renewable energy approach has become part of an energy conservation and demonstration effort, and that something to the language about this could provide an opportunity for a energy efficiency conservation facility,
Right.
center something like that?
Chris, I apologize for being late, and maybe this was discussed earlier, but this kind of dovetails into the conversation as far as the federal building as well, from an energy conservation demonstration project perspective.
Yeah, it absolutely does. So this is, and and one of the things that Amber was correct, that it's early on in the process, which is a great time for us to get involved. We find ourselves coming in a little late on it oftentimes, and so what a great opportunity to be part of the discussion about, conceptually, yeah, they got solar panels, a lot of passive lighting, all kinds of really cool stuff. And so let's keep that discussion going. And then, obviously, if we create an educational thing, it would be signage and a web page and things. But could we take it one step forward and create, a community focused place? So as I look at these, we've got all these building studios, creativity, community ballroom. I don't know if it quite fits in there because this is mostly active stuff, but there could be some place in there where, it could be a meeting room that also doubles as an educational area or something like that. Something to think about. But we can beef up this language a little bit to include something that's here. Become part of an energy conservation education center effort and possible energy. Let's see. Energy conservation.
Energy education.
Energy Education Center.
And the reason I bring this up, Chris, is I don't know how many of you have been on the Arizona State University campus. Their whole campus is an educational adventure in terms of walking around, and they tout what it is they're doing to save energy and lower their carbon footprint on a campus-wide and building by building basis. So this can be done, and there are a lot of models out there that make this possible.
I agree. In Missoula, we're, as we get up ahead of steam on energy conservation, renewable energy, and also resilience planning, resilience efforts, there's no reason we can't be part of a major effort in our part of the world, the Montana and generally the northern tier of states here, in some of this stuff as well, at the cold end of the country. A little different than Arizona in terms of what techniques you can use, but still, yeah, very interesting. And I do, and Jeremy brought that up too. We've got a similar thought, hopeful effort at the federal building, and so these two can come together. They can dovetail. Maybe the educational center for the federal building is actually over at the creek, is over at this center, or vice versa, but someplace where there would be educational stuff throughout, but a place where people can come together and really work on these things. So any other discussion on the resolution? Thanks for that addition, Scott. I think I need a comma there. All right. Well, seeing no other discussion, does anybody wish to make a resolution in support of this, or a motion in support of this resolution?
Move to approve.
A second?
I second the motion.
All right. So let's go ahead and call the roll on the motion to approve this resolution. Megan?
Chris,
Yay?
Jeremy,
Aye.
Trevor,
Aye.
Brian,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Jonathan.
Yes.
That is 6 yeses and no nos.
And then just to get a sense of our youth team members, Aviv and Virgil, Ellis, do you have any other further comments, or how would you vote?
If I could vote, I would definitely vote yes for this.
Me too.
All right, 3 for 3, sounds good. And then so the motion is approved, and so we'll forward this. And one of the places we wanted to go is obviously Parks and Rec, and they have a contact person in their on their thing, and we'll send that to them. And if Amber, if you could bring it to your committee and pass it out to your members and see if they wish to forward it to the council as a whole. I don't know if that's somehow we can provide that to them.
Yeah, I'll figure out how to let people take a look at it.
Okay. And then I'll probably, or one of us will send a copy to the mayor's office as well. So I
And
think
Chris,
that's, yeah.
for the record, I just want to note there is no public in attendance to make comment on this resolution in regards to your vote.
Okay, thank you. So that's that one. And so the next one up, and I apologize, sometimes resolutions are not the best way to move forward, but it's sometimes what we have. I used to work for an Indian tribe for a number of years, and we passed resolutions all the time. It was like the thing the tribe could do. And imagine we passed 150 resolutions a year. It was the thing. So when you can't always get something else done, this is something you can do. And they're pretty useful, I think. So this second one is a resolution in support of the Missoula water, wastewater, stormwater utilities proposed utility rate increase in order to reduce energy usage and reduce carbon emissions. I'm not sure if that wording is quite, we may have to mess with that wording. And so as we go down, the whereases, relevant whereases, let me read this and then we can take comment. Public Works and Mobility Department continues to be a good steward in maintaining, improving water, sewer, stormwater, and transportation infrastructure systems. Whereas Missoula Water produces some of the highest quality drinking water in Montana at a relatively low rates, at relatively low rates. Whereas a stated goal of the rate increase is to prioritize reduction of greenhouse gas emissions from water and wastewater, which generates 58% of the city's emissions, as you recall from that one. So whereas the rate increase will be used to decrease Public Works and Mobility greenhouse gas emissions by 10% over 5 years, upgrade, expand compost facilities to meet stricter DEQ requirements, complete third-party financing package for a 500 kilowatt solar farm at the Resource Recovery Facility, aka the wastewater treatment plant, and other projects, let me delete that, that will result in reduced energy usage. Therefore, now be it resolved, the Missoula Energy and Climate Team hereby supports Missoula's wastewater and stormwater utilities proposed utility hike increases in order to reduce energy usage and carbon emissions. And further, that the Public Works and Mobility Department highlight their energy conservation efforts to the community. It's for the third time we've seen that one. Before I open it up, let me just quickly say that on Monday night, they had a hearing at the city council meeting on this, and I commented on it, basically saying I supported it, personally, but that I was with the team. Some of the presentation I gave, besides the some of the stuff that's interesting about this, is that 50% of the water that goes through the wastewater or the drinking water system is lost to leakage. So there's pipe leakage, and then there's these pumps that just keep pumping. Water gets pulled out of the ground and then seeps back in the ground, so the pumps don't shut off. And so there's a lot of inefficiency there. And to promote water conservation is also to promote energy conservation. those equate directly. Let's see here, what are some of the other things? I think that was mostly it. I did note that, reducing greenhouse gases by 10% over the next 10 years will not meet our goal of 100% clean electricity or zero carbon emissions by 2025, but that's just another matter. So anyways, with that, I'm going to open it up for comment. And we got Amber.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to say that I really appreciate you attending on Monday. It was it took a long time to get to that topic, and you hung in there with us. So thank you. I kept looking to see if you were still with us. But I do think that it is important for this committee to weigh in on this specific item as well as others. Just to highlight how important it is that system is an efficient system, because it is such a big system and a high energy usage system. So thank you.
Jeremy?
Chris, I also thank you for writing this. It looks really good. And I agree with Amber's comments as far as us weighing in and supporting the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions through the city. I had a question for Lee, and this, I'm not sure if we've talked about this before, but my question is, has there been discussion about creating a dashboard or some way that city residents can kind of track the amount of energy that's being used as well as the amount of energy that is being saved? So this, if this moves forward, this particular project would reduce the amount of energy used in real numbers, but also compared to, if we look at Missoula as a growing community, if nothing was done, we can naturally assume that the amount of energy usage would increase just as relative to the scope or the size of Missoula. I'm just wondering if there's any effort or any discussion to talk about how do we quantify that? How do we promote that? And also, use it as kind of a motivational tool to, we're at 10% now, let's keep going so we get to 15 or 20% decrease rather than an increase, which would naturally happen as the population grows.
Thanks, Jeremy. Yes, lots of discussion around that. Lots of discussion around the ideology of that versus the practicality of creating such a dashboard. We are, like I mentioned before, maybe you weren't here, we are kind of updating our municipal website, the climate action page on the city's website, and have talked about the idea of installing some sort of dashboard. Unfortunately, our software that we use for that website can't handle anything but a static picture, I guess. So we wouldn't kind of be able to incorporate live data currently, but we are working with a student who's interested in helping us figure this out. And so he's using it as his capstone project in the environmental grad program to look into how we collect data, how we could better collect data, and then how we could share that with the community. And he has built dashboards. I think he worked with the Missoula Realtors Association and created a dashboard for them for their website. So.
Okay.
And let me just throw this in, and then we'll get Brian and Scott. But the Missoula Water is putting smart meters in all our water meters that are residential and probably all the other commercial as well. And right now you can't get that data, but there'll be real-time water use data from every single meter. And so Missoula Water will be developing some sort of dashboard where I can go and put in my address and see my water use, or somehow use an app or whatever. So they also are working on something to deal with these new smart meters that may also feed into the overall system water usage and electricity usage. So something to think about with asking those guys as well. All right, Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I saw something there in the resolution about stormwater, and I was wondering what projects are envisioned on the stormwater front from
Yeah,
this rate increase. Then the other thing, I think there's a little minor typo in the resolution where you had garden city compost. I don't see it now in front of me, but I think city and compost need to be separated by a comma.
Garden City, all right. Space there. Okay, all right, let me pull up this, go back to Engage Montana. Engage Missoula. I'll pull this up so everyone can see it. All right, so our contact over there is Logan McGinnis. So he's the guy we'll be sending this resolution to, as well as communicating. So there was something in here, and I agree. I don't remember a lot about stormwater. Most of the stormwater stuff in this case related to water quality. I don't know if there was any energy savings related to stormwater. And there's dry well sumps, stormwater outfalls. Almost all of this stuff is just gravity driven. You know, they put in this new, this is at Karis Park. You guys may have seen this, but there was an old stormwater system here that didn't work very well. So they tore out all the seats that were there. They dug up a stormwater system that was not very functional, and they put in a much more functional one. It's basically an oil or sediment water separation system. And so as the stormwater from downtown enters this area over here, all the sediment comes out, and it also screen any oil, and then the stormwater would empty into the river. So, but again, it's a passive system. So I'm not sure, Brian, whether there's any real energy savings potential with stormwater, at least not that I know of.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of any projects specific that I've seen in any of the presentations. And Lee, do you remember? I can't think of any specific project that we've looked at that I think might address that with stormwater. Obviously, water quality, but energy usage, I'm having a hard time thinking of what that would be.
Yeah, I guess just kind of passive energy use of, if we do end up having to clean up that water in the end, then there's a lot of energy on that end. The more that we have to staff up to go off and teach people about stormwater and, test water and do all of those sorts of things. There's transportation emissions. There's a lot of associated emissions with the activities of stormwater, I think, but I don't know anything directly related to the utility.
Yeah, and just to geek out for a minute, the stretch of the Clark Fork through town is an impaired water body under the Clean Water Act. Stormwater is not covered under that. The city has what's called an MS4 permit, which says, okay, you're going to do these things for stormwater, but no real limits on discharge. But if the water quality in the river decreases substantially, they're going to put the pressure on the point sources, which is the wastewater treatment plant, to improve the quality of the river. And so they might have to put in more energy to clean up their source of water, which is our wastewater, and which might cost energy. So, but yeah, not on the surface of it, but it could potentially down the line, theoretically.
So there other, oh, sorry, I think Scott has
Okay.
his hand up. I'll ask after Scott has his question.
All right, hey, Scott.
Yeah, a comment and a question. The first question is to Leah, and maybe it's simple. It's really 5.2. You started talking, Leah, about creating a dashboard. The climate lens model is the Canadian model. Is that the one you're going to follow or use and adapt? Or is it just a general term that you're using in terms of creating an active website where people can see progress toward goals?
So the climate lens, the Canadian model is something that we as a city and then the energy climate team folks are considering as kind of a model to use, but we're not going to kind of word for word copy it, because we have, different considerations here. We have to look at what decisions are made specifically in the city of Missoula and how we can incorporate a climate lens that way. And so, so that's a little bit of a different project, I think, than kind of communicating energy savings through the different work that the city is doing. So while a climate lens will help, I see it as more helping going forward to ensure that climate is considered in all the decisions, which will theoretically reduce emissions. Collecting real-time data to actually show where we're at and how much we've improved with specific projects, I think would be the goal with some sort of dashboard. And it's difficult. I mean, it's easy on a specific basis, such as the water utility. We could actually show the energy savings based on the utility provider and get that data that way. When we look at other things like transportation or other sorts of energy savings, it gets a little harder when methods change and points of data change and all of that. And so there's so much to talk about, I think, on both issues, but I see them as a little bit separate.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious because the Canadian model is one that others have adapted and modified for their own communities, and I just wondered if that was what you were looking at. The other comment is actually in support of the resolution, but I would note that I don't think it has been well communicated that the point of the increase in water rates is going to focus on enhancement of or protection of quality of water and saving of energy use because of the leaks and so on and so forth. I think when the announcement came out through the newspaper, the basic communication was, oh, hey, your water rates are going up. And people, the message of water quality and ultimately saving energy by reducing leaks, reducing the amount of pumping time that goes on was sort of lost. That's just a general observation.
Yeah, agreed. It was kind of in there in the toward the end. It's one of the reasons we're trying to highlight it here is because I thought water quality wasn't hit as hard as it could have been, and certainly energy conservation was barely touched. So Jeremy?
Chris, you were talking earlier about different inputs into the river when you were geeking out just a little bit, which I enjoyed. My question is, are there other inputs into the water other than the wastewater treatment plant that would be affected in the same way that you were describing earlier? And just kind of a second item that I'll mention real quick. As we're talking about this and diving in a little bit deeper, it might be interesting to have Logan McInnes come and present at one of our meetings. I know him through, outside of the committee and certainly things like that. So that's something that we could, certainly talk about or see if that would make sense.
Yeah, as we follow up on the energy conservation measures, to have him come in and we can work with them on that. I agree. Amber's up next.
Yeah, I just wanted to, Scott's comments, I appreciate those. It's, I will say that one of the reasons I was very thankful that Chris came to and waited on Monday to make comment was because it is, we do communicate those type of benefits, and we talk about them a lot at committee on Wednesday, which sometimes is or isn't covered by press. And sometimes, even though we ask those questions and highlight those things as counselors, it's still, isn't the primary story. So, I think one of the helpful pieces in communicating that to the public, and I think that's an important educational piece of energy usage, is the public understanding what it means to have all these leaks in the system. And how, so I appreciate the comment. I think we try and can't always control what the story is, and that discussion is happening. But the more that this committee can kind of bring that to light, I think that's helpful, because I don't think a lot of people are tracking the importance of why we are doing some of these rate increases.
Thanks, Amber.
Thank you. Excellent point. So let's see here. Where are we at? Oh, I just wanted to say, Amber, while the council meeting was going on, I was watching my recorded Broncos Kansas City game on the other screen. So I was okay.
I'm glad to hear that. It was a long one. I was hoping you stayed with us.
Yeah, no problem. All righty. Any other discussion on our resolution?
Chris, I had one suggestion if I'm able to make one. Just on that, when you cite that 58%, just to clarify that it's municipal emissions, because it just says, I think on there, the city's emissions, and that might lead people to believe that 58% is of that total pie of the community, rather than just when we're accounting for municipal and emissions.
The cities, so 58%, let's see, generates of the, so instead of cities, you'd say municipal here?
Probably both cities, municipal emissions.
Cities, municipal emissions.
Lee, is that what you were thinking?
That is, yeah, just to really specify.
Right?
If you're unfamiliar with the terminology, you could think that it's all residents of the city of Missoula of 58%, which would be inaccurate.
And it is one of those odd ones where most city things, it's its own building, you know, it's this department, that department. But Missoula Water touches everybody in the city, and there aren't many things like that the city does, where, you know, it touches every single person every single day. So, all right, any other comments? Okay, seeing none, I call for a motion. If folks wish to make a motion to support this resolution, a vote in
Move to
support
adopt.
of this resolution. Thank you, Scott. My language is
Second.
big. All right, who's the second there?
Trevor.
Trevor, thanks, Trevor. All right, and let's go ahead and have a roll call vote.
Chris?
Yes.
Oh, I think, sorry, before we take the vote, there's no public in attendance still to provide comment.
Okay, thank you, Megan.
Okay, Chris,
Yay.
Jeremy,
In support.
Trevor,
Yay.
Brian,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
and Jonathan.
Yes.
Great, 6 yeses, no nos.
And in Virgil, Ellis, Aviv.
Yeah, again, I think I would vote yes on this. I think it's a really important subject here. Water is very important to the city of Missoula. And I think it's a really useful way to take down our emissions.
Sounds good.
I agree. Sorry, it's a bit crazy.
Yeah, no, I understand.
I would also vote yes.
All right, thanks, guys. This is going to go in front of the city council next Monday night. So I may show up to present it, or have Amber do it, or we'll probably do something similar to get it, depending on what committee meetings are happening between now and next Monday, whether Parks and Conservation is meeting, Amber, between now and next Monday.
They're not meeting between now and next Monday.
Okay, so we
We
need
have
to.
one more meeting in the year, so.
Yeah, so maybe just on Monday night, maybe you and I will present this resolution prior to that vote.
I think that would be great. I think that he will, the mayor will call for, we opened the public hearing last week, which is when we take public comment. We will likely take public comment again. But we'll get this out to council probably through Marty or Megan. I'll figure that out just so they can see that it's been submitted from this committee. And then hopefully there'll be some public comment. And if not, or if no one's able to join, I will present it in some of my comments and questions. So either way is great. I think it'd be great to hear if someone can attend, but I certainly don't expect someone to come every week.
All right.
Amber, is city council continuing to meet remotely for the indefinite future?
I guess indefinite is the key there. We are hoping to get back to a hybrid model soon, but through the end of the year, we're going to be remote.
Okay, thank you.
I will note, and maybe I'll send something to Logan. There is nothing on the Engage Missoula page that allows me to submit comments. I was looking for it earlier. There's a place I can submit questions. So I don't.
So the other thing, if you, I'm going to go through this so I can speak to it correctly. But if you do go on to the meetings and agenda page for the city, and I think it would be under, we don't have the council meeting for this next Monday night up yet, but if you click through to the last week and you go to that public, the public hearing that we opened on the stormwater, let me double check. It should allow you to submit a public comment through there.
So let's see here, the last city council meeting.
Amber, for the meetings that have happened in the past, public comment is turned off when the meeting is over. So you are welcome to make public comment. The agenda for Monday night will be published Friday evening and public comment will be activated. Another way to provide comment is to email Logan directly, and they always make sure to send us a PDF of any public comment to attach to the agenda item. You can also call the city council voicemail and leave a message or send an email to their collective email address.
Okay, thanks. I wasn't sure. That kind of leaves us with a little lag of when you can make public comment on a public hearing that's open. But okay,
it's a good question.
That's another issue. That sounds like a different issue that we might need to tackle. But okay, that sounds good. But it would be nice to hear public comment. And I would say if any of the youth team members are so inclined to make comment on that, it would be great to hear from them. But it's not open yet, it sounds like.
All right, and we just lost Virgil. He had to run off. Unfortunately, we're going to talk about new meeting times, but we will still have that discussion. There are too many pieces of paper going. We lost track here. Okay, non-action items. First up, and I'm just going to put Brian on the spot here, although I pulled up the web page and I can talk about it as well. I noted in the news last week that ground was broken on the University of Montana's combined heat and power plant, and that was really exciting. And I know Brian's been telling us about that for 2 or 3 years. It's been a big, long effort to get there. And congratulations, Brian, on getting there. And I just wondered if you had any comments, and let us know if folks aren't aware of what that is and how big a deal it is.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, it is a big deal. So as Chris mentioned, last month, we broke ground in a formal ceremony, and there is construction underway right now. Chris just brought up an image of rendering what it might look like when we're done with it. We expect to be done with it end of next year, in December 2022. It's a combined heat and power. So we are using 2 natural gas combustion turbines. So we use natural gas. We burn that in a turbine similar to a jet engine. The hot exhaust from those jet engines makes steam. So we use the steam to provide heat to the campus. And so we make our own power, and we are making steam right now with natural gas. So we take it a step further and make our own power and steam with one step. It's a much more efficient process. Oh, thanks. Yeah. Right there, you can see in the green little highlight that we save 30% of our greenhouse gas emissions. Again, I want to emphasize we're still using natural gas, which obviously is a fossil fuel, But by dint of us moving off the utility grid, which still has a bunch of coal in its portfolio, we're able to green up our footprint by almost a third. So it's a significant step in our carbon footprint reduction, the most significant step the university has done to date.
Thank you. Yeah, and I was just looking at your totals here, what it took in terms of, it's hard to know what these numbers mean, like when I say 40,000 something, but it's worth noting that the water usage for public works that we were just talking about is about 10,000 metric tons a year. So that's for the water and the sewer. And so for this combined heat power plant, it's 40 metric tons of CO2 equivalent. And then this is the reduction here when you add that. Is that correct, Brian, to the 28,000 tons? Metric tons?
Yeah, that's what it's reduced to. So the actual reduction is right below that.
Yeah, so
11,000. Yeah,
reducing 11,000. So this is just again as a gauge, this is equivalent to the water plant and the wastewater plant, their entire energy usage for a year. So that's a lot of electricity or a lot of CO2 emissions. And again, it's hard to gauge these numbers, but that's that metric ton per year of CO2 equivalent. Everyone's not
It's a huge
familiar with
savings.
that. Yeah, it's tremendous. All right, thanks for that, Brian, and best of luck, and we'll look forward to hearing more about it going down the road.
That's excellent, Brian.
I didn't see you shoveling in the dirt though, with the news folks. I figured
they begged me to get up there, and I declined.
I saw McKinstry there. They've probably been very involved as well, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Any update on the climate lens? And if there's nothing, we'll keep moving on. I just wanted to keep it up there, as I mentioned, Lee, just so we keep it alive and make sure we're providing Lee with any support we can.
I do have one update, is that we have some help on this, which I'm really excited about. So we have kind of a burgeoning effort at the leadership level for the city, where they're kind of creating, we have a citywide strategic plan. And in that plan, there are these different pillars. And so environmental quality, safety, and health, and different pillars. And so they are creating some, what are they calling it? I'm just looking for functional work teams around some of these efforts. And so one is going to be the JEDI effort, the equity and inclusion. Another one is going to be a climate functional work team. So this will be made up of leadership and department heads and different folks who really, are involved in making decisions at the city level. And so they're interested in taking up the idea of the climate lens as well. And so I think it will be a really good pairing of the energy and climate team to do some research and make some recommendations and get that to me. And then I can feed that up to the functional work team. And then we can figure out maybe on the functional work team level how to actually implement it down. And so it will be inputs from everywhere, but hopefully we'll really work well together to facilitate this effort so we can get it going.
So Lee, will those work in parallel between the climate lens and the equity and inclusion lens?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
And we did have a discussion the other day, not about the lens specifically, but Jeremy was getting ready to take the lead on that work group to provide that input. And then it turned out that there were some questions about what we could do outside of these public meetings. And so some further discussion is going to occur on that. Amber was going to pick that up, and Jeremy was going to keep working on it so that we can provide that information to Lee. And so stay tuned on how that proceeds. All right. So one of the other ones that was brought up last time, Jonathan brought up about recreational marijuana ordinance. And so we talked a little bit about it, and the city has passed their recreational marijuana ordinance 2 weeks ago. but they're proposing an amendment to deal with specifically the energy usage for the growth of plants. It was noted that this is one of the most intensive energy uses for any agricultural products out there. And is there a need for, or just what sort of energy are we talking about in terms of growing these crops? And so that amendment is working through the city end of things, the administrative end of things. So maybe Lee can give us an update on where that's headed.
Yeah, so I'm working with some planners after we got direction from City Council to move forward with Title V amendments. And so Title V is in business requirements. And so specifically, we're looking at adding it to business licensing, so that as businesses every business has to apply for a new license every year. It's the same time of year, it's in the spring. So what we've kind of envisioned for a process so far is to do a lot of outreach to our current cultivators to understand what they're currently using, how much of a burden it would be financially and time-wise and all of those sorts of things, to ask them to switch over entirely to LED, and what would their recommendations be for energy savings, and to really get feedback and kind of partnership with the cultivators to kind of understand what those requirements should be. And we're hoping to do it all quickly. The holidays in between make it a little difficult, but we're hoping to actually have something in front of council by February, with the intention of kind of getting it up to speed and then potentially giving cultivators a year to actually get up to compliance before they have to would have their business licenses held if they weren't up to compliance. And so that's one thing that I would say the biggest thing that we're weighing is whether we pass it and implement it this May, which would be a very quick process, or if we pass it and then give folks a year to get up to compliance.
Yeah, no, I mean, this goes back from when Colorado was first implementing their marijuana program. Most growers use these, they're basically the street light type lights, halide, mercury halide or something like that. And so they have high intensity and full spectrum. And so if you were to bring in something with the similar number of lumens and the same thing with the proper spectrum for plant growth on an LED, do we have any sense of how much energy savings that actually is?
Yes, there is lots of data out there about the impact, and it's very significant. I can't really quote numbers right now, but it's worth the effort for sure to bring that down. And what we're looking at, the states of Illinois and Massachusetts have both passed a regulation around watts per square foot. And so that's kind of some of the discussion would be to allow, they landed on 38 watts per square foot. We're going to have to do some research into where that number specifically came from. But what that allows for is essentially it would allow for energy efficient lighting with a little bit of room for maybe we've heard from some cultivators that during the flowering stage, they need more high intensity lighting in order to kind of get the potency of their product up to where they need it to be. And so 38 watts per square foot seems to allow for a little bit of flexibility while largely requiring that they would have to switch to LED.
And then in terms of cost, so if they already have these, so I imagine they're growing right now is just for medical. And so they're going to double that or triple that. So they maybe have not yet invested in the additional lighting necessary, and they're getting ready to, or do you have a sense whether a lot of these folks have already invested in this, it's going to be a sunk cost for them? Or
that's what some of our research will tell. We don't, then that's kind of when I mentioned that burden piece is, how much of that is true, where people will be increasing their canopy and so they'll be purchasing new lights, or if they just already have their operation and that's, they'll have to then retrofit all of the equipment, because the LED lighting is quite expensive on the front end. Now the payback is very quick. Most times it's about a 2-year payback to where their energy savings pays off the equipment. And so it's just that upfront cost. I think that's the burden.
Right. And there'll be a lot of other upfront costs, additional space and processing capabilities and stuff. So I know they're all probably looking for funding, and funding, of course, in marijuana is tough because the federal government still has it as illegal, so they can't go to banks and things like that, which is tough. Well, one sort of commentary I'll make is the difference between recreational and medical. If it truly is medical, we would not limit the number of times somebody can get a CAT scan or an MRI, or say you can only run this 2 hours a day. Those things are so energy intensive, they can run small towns on those things. And so if we're not going to limit an MRI or a CAT scan, we probably shouldn't limit medical marijuana if it is truly a medical need. And so that's just a little commentary. Anybody else have any comments on medical marijuana? Jonathan, what do you think? Are we heading in the right direction there?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. It's not an area I know much about at all. And so it's been interesting to read about what the city's doing. And so I guess I don't have very much insight into this beyond saying it's been interesting, and it sounds like the city's on a really cool track with this.
Yeah, and this does go along, the county passed an ordinance to require renewable energy for cryptocurrency mining operations. And so that was another one that was in line with this, where it's something that doesn't have to occur, but if it does, it's reasonable to request this stuff. All right, Trevor?
Yeah, I kind of echo what you said, Chris. I hadn't thought of it that way as far as paying for, the cost of medical marijuana. Just coming from Colorado and from what I know of the regulations, how they're going to come out here, I guess one of my concerns would be, how can the city differentiate between, if one vendor or producer is making quote unquote medical marijuana, but then they're also selling recreational, is how to monitor or decipher, how much is going in either direction. Because I could see someone trying to easily game the system of they're selling both, and then they're like, oh, well, we're medical, so we don't have to subscribe to these regulations.
Good question. In Colorado, every single plant has an RF tag, and every single plant has to be monitored in that respect. And they actually, in Colorado, they're separate facilities. They can't be in the same facility. But I don't think in Montana they track individual plants via RF tags. So I don't know if you can say this plant's medical and this plant's recreational, but that for Lee, that might be a good question for you guys to think about, is how they differentiate these things. I think that's a good point. Amber?
I was just gonna say it is going to be, it's not going to be a small task to figure out exactly how we are going to monitor and what makes sense to monitor. We're not going to have people inspecting these places, to see, oh, is that medical, is that not? I mean, I think there are different types of plants maybe sometimes, so I'm not sure, but I think that will be an interesting piece, just as Lee and the city staff look going forward. I think these are the questions that the council's going to ask, and I think that I'm personally looking forward to seeing what all the research on this comes up with, and I think it was really smart to hold off and let them do this research and come up with a good plan around it. So I think there are a lot of unanswered questions on what this is going to look like at this point.
Thank you, Amber. Yeah, we won't put this on any sort of action agenda anytime soon. So come back in January, we'll see where we're at with it. Any other comments? Yeah, go ahead.
I would love to, I would love to have the committee weigh in on it when we get there, though, obviously. So I think that's going to be really important.
All right, no other comments out there. Last agenda item was, I put it down as looking at times for our meetings, revised meeting time poll results. I didn't put out a poll, but what we did is the last time Jeremy and Amber, I talked about this, and we hit upon both Amber and Jeremy have kids in high school, and they're aware that and this is something for Aviv and Ellis to jump in on. Thursday morning, there's a delayed start, and then at 9 or 10, and then
40.
you guys have not a class, but an opportunity for you guys to interact with your mentor. No, what was the term you guys used? It was your
It's
Maybe
like an
advisor.
advisory teacher.
advisor.
Yeah.
Thank you. So anyways, we weren't exactly sure, Ellis and Aviv, what that meant, and could our meeting start at 8 on Thursday and go into some of that time, so we could get 2 hours, 8 to 10, and sort of get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. Our advisor period goes from 9:40 to 10:25. So if we started it at 8, then that would be great.
So you don't have to be in a particular room at that particular time. There's some flexibility there.
Yeah.
Okay. Alice, is that the same thing for you? You guys are at different schools, aren't you?
Yeah, I think at Hellgate, you don't have to be. It's basically like a late start for sophomores because you don't have to go in to office hours. So it basically school starts at 10:30. So I could do 8 or whatever. So anytime between school start, and I'm also fine missing some class after lunch or whatever. So I'm quite flexible.
But we anticipate this late start in the advisory meetings that's going to happen next school year too, likely. I mean, we don't know for sure, but yeah. So anyways, for the spring term, we expect it. I emailed with Megan, and she's sent back some times, and it seems to me that for the city clerk's office, 8 to 10 could work, or even 8:30 to 10:30. Is that correct, Megan? Just to make sure.
Yes, that's correct.
All right. So instead of asking everybody if it works, does it not work for anybody to be Thursday morning from 8 to 10 or 8:30 to 10:30? All right. Well, that was
And
easy.
which week of the month would you like to hold the meeting? Still the second week?
Good question.
Just the time?
Chris, and team, I take my son to school on Thursday morning, so I'll need to work through that. But I don't think that's a huge deal, and I don't think that needs to slow this down any.
And your son's in middle school?
No, he's a sophomore in
He's
high
high
school.
school. So
Yep.
he just needs to be there for the advisory period.
Correct.
At 9:30.
Yeah.
So you could just go in and log in at the high school.
You know, I haven't asked
No.
about that, but who knows? Maybe.
All right. So we do
I could
have
sit
one.
next to Aviv.
We've got one parent who needs to. So that is one small problem we have to address.
Yeah. However, if the time works for other folks on the team, I don't think that should, stop the discussion or slow it down in any way.
All right. Well, maybe we'll try it after the first of the year for our first meeting and see how it goes for everybody. Unless somebody has a problem. Oh, Brian's got his hand up. Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, Thursdays, 10, I have a standing meeting, so, probably make it work 8 o'clock to 10 or 8:30 to 10.
Okay, so 8 to 10 works for Brian instead of the, and then Jeremy is out basically from 9 to 9:30.
Yeah, 9. It would be more like 9:15 to 9:45 or 10. But Chris, I can work through that. I don't have any specific solutions at this time, but let me stew on that a little bit.
All right, and we'll talk about it. Amber and Jeremy and I and Lee get together between our regular meetings, and so we'll finalize it then. All right. So with that, our next item on our agenda is any team member comments. Talk about anything you want to talk about. the state of the price of tea in China, which is probably going up, I guess.
I had seen at the Midtown Association on Tuesday that the MRA had been awarded a pretty large grant for a rapid transportation study. And in passing, I had mentioned to their team that that's probably something we would really like to maybe have them come on as a guest and update us on what, their progress or, at various different stages, because I'm assuming that that's going to be an ongoing process, and Amber might know more. But I just thought I'd mention it.
I think that's a great point, Trevor. Thank you for bringing that up. It's very early in the process still, but I think that you're right. I think it'd be interesting to have this team kind of be aware of where the process is and be weighing in on it as needed. I'm part of the Midtown Association planning group. I don't know what the name of what I'm involved, but so I appreciate you saying that, and I definitely will keep that on my mind as we move forward. And Lee has her hand up, so I think she has a thought on that too.
I have a thought on a different topic, so feel free to finish this one.
All right. Well, thanks, Trevor, and Amber and Trevor. You'll let us know when we want to get it on our agenda. Sorry for Jeremy.
Oh no, Trevor and Amber, has there been any discussion about what rapid transit looks like?
And I don't know what you've seen. I just kind of got involved in Trevor, but I've just got involved in the committee, and I mean, not really. I think it's just the study of what we can do and what we can do in that area, because it's a little bit of a tricky area traffic wise without bus turnouts and things. So I don't really know what it's going to look like.
And that was my impression as well, Jeremy. And that's why I thought it might be a good time for, if we could weasel our way in, just to have influence on, making sure that we're aligning with, more green energy if they, as their options and things are weighed. But I think that they just got it awarded like a week ago. So it's really new.
Okay. And this was to MRA?
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Through
to do
MRA.
No, to MRA, right?
Oh, okay. So it's part, I'm sorry. Yes, there's two different fundings going toward this process.
Right.
So,
and then the Midtown Association from MRA was awarded a substantial amount as well. But I think MRA was given a federal of $850,000.
Sorry, I'm getting them confused. You're completely right.
Okay.
But
thank you for clarifying.
But the study, I mean, they are somewhat intermixed, because the study area is going to include that area, and transit's going to be part of the study area. And that was what MRA had granted to the Midtown Association, part of the funds to do this study.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an important differentiation, but they are definitely tied together too.
Were you there Tuesday night at Southgate, Amber?
I was not. Were you there?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I want to introduce myself.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I'm sure I'll be at one of the meetings soon.
Awesome.
Problem to have. Too much money to keep track of. All right. Doesn't happen very often. All right, Lee.
Thanks. I just wanted to give a quick update on the McKinstry energy performance contract work. We are getting really close to finalizing it, which is very exciting. It's been a long project. Next Thursday, McKinstry is going to be doing an initial presentation to some of our internal leadership, just really big picture. This is what we found. And then we'll be doing kind of one-on-one department level presentations to look at specific equipment and specific costs and all of those sorts of things. And so I'd love to have them come and give an overview to this team as well. I don't know that January will be the right time, but definitely by February.
That would be excellent. Yeah.
I'll put it
very interested in the results.
Yeah, I'll put it as a note to put it in February. and follow up. Yeah, that'd be great. We haven't talked about them in a while, but I know they've been working away at it, so that's tremendous. Okay, so the only other thing, so our regular scheduled meeting will still be on Tuesday of the second Tuesday in January, tentatively, but we'll finalize starting at 8 a.m., but we'll finalize that prior to the meeting time. So
The second
Thursday or
Thurs-
Tuesday?
Thursday.
I've been doing a little too much of that medical stuff, you know. It's legal, right? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Second Thursday.
Second Thursday. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chris.
You guys, thank you so much, everybody. And please feel free to be in touch with each other and me between now and the next meeting. Otherwise, have a great holiday season, and we will talk to you all in January. Meeting
Thanks, everyone.
adjourned.
You too. Great job, Chris.
All
Y'all
right.
are-